The house always smelled like lavender and fresh coffee on Sunday mornings. Alyssa made sure of it. It was part of her charm, sweet, intentional, and just a little old-fashioned in a way that Hunter adored. Their modest home in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina, was still half filled with wedding gifts and unopened books from their Amazon registry. Hunter liked to say they were still settling into forever. Married for 6 months now, he still looked at her like a miracle. She wore white cotton robes, sang gospel tunes while brushing her hair, and left scripture notes in his suit jacket pockets before work. To Hunter, she was living proof of answered prayers. Every Friday night, they hosted Bible study for 3 other couples. Alyssa baked lemon pound cake and laid out little cards with handwritten verses. She always brought the room to silence when she spoke. Her voice, soft but sincere, had a way of cutting through noise. She'd often tell their guests, "I waited for the right man. I waited for God to give me him." And she'd look at Hunter, eyes glossy, voice trembling with emotion. He'd squeeze her hand, feeling like the most blessed man alive. To him, that was love, clean, sacred, and God-ordained. But behind her eyes, behind the trembling voice and perfectly folded hands, Alyssa carried something else, something sealed tightly in the vault of her past. It started subtly. Hunter noticed small inconsistencies. One evening, while cleaning out a box in the garage, he found an old flash drive labeled LSU Private. Alyssa had gone to LSU before transferring to a smaller Christian college where they eventually met. When he asked her about it, she froze for half a second, just long enough for it to register. "Oh," she laughed, a little too quickly. "Just old college papers. Super embarrassing stuff. I thought I tossed that years ago." She took it from his hand and dropped it into the kitchen junk drawer. Later, it disappeared. Another time, they attended a friend's wedding and ran into an older gentleman, maybe late 40s, heavy-set, in a tailored suit. He greeted Alyssa too familiarly. A half-second hug, a whispered, "You look incredible," a look she avoided. "Old professor," she told Hunter when he asked. "We didn't get along, honestly." Still, something felt off. Hunter didn't push. He trusted her. But the seed had been planted. Hunter hadn't meant to check her phone. It started with something innocent, a missed call while Alyssa was in the shower. The screen lit up with a name he didn't recognize. Vince, LSU. Not Uncle Vince, not Pastor Vince, just Vince. No last name, no context. The name lingered in his thoughts like a splinter he couldn't remove. Later that night, when Alyssa fell asleep next to him, peaceful and curled into his chest, he reached for her phone on the nightstand, just to ease his mind. The passcode was the same as always, his birthday. She trusted him completely. That made it worse. There were no recent messages from Vince, but he found old ones in the archive. Vince: "You still in Raleigh? Would love to take you to dinner like old times." Alyssa: "Can't. I'm married now. Things are different." Vince: "He doesn't have to know." Alyssa: "Don't disrespect my husband." Vince: "You weren't so holy back in Baton Rouge. Remember the Hyatt suite?" Hunter felt a sudden stillness in his chest. A cold fog seemed to rise inside him. He didn't read further. He couldn't. Instead, he put the phone back, held Alyssa a little tighter, and stared at the ceiling for hours, quietly bargaining with himself. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he misunderstood. Maybe Vince was a bitter ex. But now the splinter had burrowed deep. Brandon wasn't the kind of guy to stir up trouble. He was blunt, honest, and fiercely loyal. So when he texted Hunter out of nowhere, "We need to talk, alone," it felt serious. They met at a small bar just off the highway. It wasn't their usual spot. That, too, felt off. Brandon looked uncomfortable, even guilty. "I wasn't going to say anything," he began, nursing a whiskey he hadn't touched. "But, man, I found something." Hunter was already bracing for it. Brandon took out his phone and opened a folder labeled simply, "Alyssa." He tapped a video. Hunter watched, and then he couldn't stop watching. The hotel room was dimly lit, but there was no mistaking her. Alyssa. In a black mask and lingerie, laughing, as hands touched her from every angle. 5 men, maybe 6. One held a camera, another had a fraternity ring. Her body moved like this wasn't her first time, or her last. The video ended. Hunter couldn't speak. "There's more," Brandon said carefully. "I only showed you one. There's websites, forums, even Reddit threads, old ones. She used to go by the name Sarah McKay, escort boards, sugar baby groups, and man, some of those guys, they were at your wedding." Hunter's breath came in slow, shallow gasps. The world tilted. "She lied to you, bro. All of it. The virgin thing, the church girl image. That wasn't who she was before you. She just buried it. Buried it. Like a body." Hunter didn't sleep the night Brandon showed him the video. He lay in bed, watching Alyssa breathe beside him. Peacefully, blissfully unaware. Each breath she took sounded like a lie. He stared at her, silently counting each inhale, feeling something harden in his chest, something cold, sharp, and unrelenting. His wife, his Alyssa, his miracle. It wasn't just that she'd sinned, it was that she'd sold him salvation, all while hiding filth behind lace and scripture. He remembered her crying on their wedding night. "I've waited for this moment my whole life." The trembling voice, the whispered prayers, the look of sacred gratitude in her eyes. Was it all just theater? He started skipping Bible study. At first, he made excuses. "Work's been busy. I'm feeling a little off." Alyssa didn't push. She thought he was just tired. He watched her from across the living room as she led the group without him, laughing and serving cake, her voice still laced with scripture. He wanted to scream. Instead, he started spending more time alone, in the garage, in the car, in the back of the church parking lot, just watching the sky. He stopped praying. He stopped believing. And at work, he was a ghost. Clients noticed. His boss pulled him aside. "You all right, Hunter?" "Yeah," he said, voice distant. "Just going through something personal." He was always just going through something. At home, Alyssa noticed the distance, but assumed it was stress. She began leaving him longer love notes. She cooked his favorite meals. She initiated intimacy more often, trying to bring them closer, and he played along. He kissed her. He touched her, but he never looked her in the eyes, because when he did, all he could see were them, the men, the hands, the mask, the lies. He watched the other videos, not all at once, one a night, like some perverse ritual, like drinking poison in measured doses. He saw different versions of her, young, reckless, confident, greedy, godless. And each version of her felt like a nail in the coffin of the life they had built, the life he believed in. One video featured her laughing in a marble bathtub, champagne in hand, as an older man stroked her leg and called her his sweet little prize. Hunter paused the video. He rewound it, watched it again. He remembered that man from the wedding. He gave a toast. "To the purest love I've ever seen," the man had said, raising his glass. By the third week, Hunter had stopped pretending. He ate in silence, slept on the edge of the bed, didn't flinch when she touched him, but never reached for her in return. Alyssa finally asked, one rainy Tuesday morning, "Hunter, is everything okay?" He stared at her long and hard. "I'm just tired," he lied. But something behind his eyes made her pause. The warmth was gone. The light she once saw in him, the gentle, Christ-centered tenderness that had drawn her in, it was replaced with something else, something colder. Not in words, not in arguments, because there were none, but in the pauses, the silence between meals, the way Hunter stopped saying, "I love you," when she left for work, the way he didn't touch her anymore unless she touched him first. And even then, his hands were cold. She told herself it was just a phase. Every couple goes through something. But this didn't feel like something. It felt like everything had changed. He used to pray over her while she slept. Now, he left the room. He used to text her Bible verses during the day. Now, she got nothing. She called her mother and said she thought Hunter was depressed. Her mother's advice, "Give him space, honey. Be patient. He's a man. They carry things quietly." But Alyssa knew it was more than that. His quiet wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy. It buzzed with something beneath the surface. One night, she found him in the garage, just sitting in the dark, with the door slightly cracked. No music, no tools, just stillness. "Hunter?" she said gently, her voice soft as a question. He didn't answer. She approached slowly. "Baby, what's going on?" He turned his head slightly, barely enough to see her, and said, "Do you think people can hide who they really are forever?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, do you think some people build their lives on lies so well they even start believing them?" I guess anyone can lie to themselves," she said, unsure. Hunter nodded once, then looked away. That was it. No fight, no confrontation, just another wall built between them. Later that night, Alyssa stared at him from the hallway while he slept. He was facing the wall, curled slightly, breathing slow. She could feel something pulling at her gut. She wanted to check his phone, but she didn't. Wanted to ask directly, but she didn't. Instead, she walked back to their room, quietly pulled her laptop from under the bed, and began clearing her search history. Something told her she should, just in case. Meanwhile, Hunter wasn't sleeping. He'd learned how to fake it. His eyes were open, watching the shadows crawl across the wall. Inside him, the storm was growing. He had memorized every frame of every video. He had researched every man. He had read escort forums and sugar daddy reviews. He'd found usernames that matched her photos, dates that lined up with her time in Baton Rouge. She had been everyone but who she claimed to be. And he had married a ghost in white. He began writing a journal. He called it Testimony. Each page began with a Bible verse, then a reflection, then a confession, then rage. Not loud, not chaotic, but slow and clean, like surgical steel. He didn't fantasize about hurting her. He fantasized about cleansing her, about setting fire to the lie and watching the smoke rise like an offering. It was raining hard the night Hunter finally spoke. Not a drizzle, not a storm, but a downpour so thick it erased the world outside. Water pounded against the windows as if it, too, wanted in on the truth. Alyssa had just finished folding laundry. She was humming something low, Oceans, maybe. She'd done her makeup that day, curled her hair, put on his favorite sweater of hers, trying to bring back what had gone missing. That night, Hunter didn't retreat to the garage. He stood in the living room, watching her, silent, unmoving. She turned around and smiled. "Hey, babe, you hungry? I made that... Who is Sarah McKay?" The smile vanished. Alyssa's body stiffened so suddenly it was as if her skeleton locked in place. She didn't speak. Her eyes darted once, left, then right, then landed back on him. He stepped closer. "Answer me," he said. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Where did you hear that name?" He didn't blink. "I didn't hear it. I read it. I watched it." A long silence passed, and then her knees buckled. She dropped to the couch, her breath shallow, hands trembling in her lap. "Hunter, how long were you going to lie?" he asked, voice calm, too calm. "I didn't lie. I just never told you." Her eyes welled with tears. "Because I didn't think you'd love me if you knew." "You were recorded with 6 men," he said, smiling. "You were laughing." She sobbed into her hands. "It was a different life. I was young. I was stupid. You were there for money, Alyssa. You sold yourself. You stood in a church and promised me purity, righteousness, salvation. I wanted to be new," she cried. "You don't understand how broken I was back then." Hunter's voice cracked. "But I believed you were whole. I loved you like you were whole." He began pacing. "Do you know what it's like to feel chosen by God? To believe that after years of waiting, praying, fighting temptation, you finally found the woman He carved from your rib?" He looked at her then, really looked, and to learn you were crafted by greed, not grace. Her sobs deepened. "I wanted to be different for you. I am different now." "But you never confessed it," he hissed. "You let me build our life on lies. And now everything we have is rotten." She reached out. "Hunter, please, I love you. I didn't think this would come back." He pulled away, trembling. "It never left," he whispered. "It was in the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you fake tears. I see you now, and I can't unsee it." Alyssa stood, slowly, holding herself like something fragile. "I made mistakes," she whispered, "but I found Christ too. I was searching for him when I found you, I swear. You saved me, and I never stopped being grateful." But Hunter's eyes were distant now, like he was no longer speaking to her, but to something inside himself. "No," he said, "you didn't find Christ. You put on his skin." The rain hadn't stopped. It had turned their neighborhood into a quiet abyss, streetlights hazy, roads blurred by sheets of water. Inside the house, time stood still. Hunter sat in the kitchen, staring at the wedding photo on the wall. The smiling couple, the ivory dress, the polished Bible held between their hands like an offering. The picture mocked him now. He reached into the drawer beside the stove and pulled out a small hunting knife, gifted to him by his father years ago. Never used, never needed. He turned it over in his hands, slowly, like he was holding something sacred. Upstairs, Alyssa had locked herself in their bedroom. She'd gone quiet since the confrontation, only the occasional creak of the floor giving away her pacing. Hunter walked to the bottom of the stairs and looked up. The shadows stretched down like fingers. He climbed them one at a time, slowly, deliberately. Each step felt like a final prayer. He opened the bedroom door. Alyssa stood on the other side, her back to him, looking out the window. She didn't turn around. "You're scaring me," she whispered. "You should be," he replied. She faced him then, makeup streaked from crying, hair wild, sweater damp with sweat. "You don't have to do this," she said. "Don't I? I loved you. I love you." "No," he said, raising the knife. "You loved the version of me that didn't know. You loved the illusion. I don't even think you know how to love, Alyssa, not without pretending." She stepped back, voice breaking. "This isn't you. This isn't my Hunter." His hand trembled. "Maybe your Hunter died with the lie." She lunged suddenly, trying to knock the knife from his hand, but he grabbed her wrists midair. The room became a blur of struggling limbs and harsh albs. They crashed into the wall, then the bed, and for a moment, just a moment, it looked like he might relent. Then her voice cut through the noise, not as a plea, but as a dagger of truth. "I never thought you'd find out, because men like you never look that deep." Silence. Hunter's eyes darkened. "And what kind of man am I, Alyssa?" Her voice was calm now, cold, the kind that needed a fantasy, not a woman. And with that, the knife found her chest. Once, then again, and again. Each thrust was not rage. It was ritual, slow, focused, reverent, a sacrament of despair. When the light finally left her eyes, Hunter knelt beside her body. Blood soaked the sheets. Her lips trembled with the last breath. He pressed his forehead to her cooling skin and whispered, "I forgive you." Then he turned and walked into the rain, barefoot and dazed, as if the storm had been waiting to cleanse him. The news broke like a thunderclap across their quiet community. Local man kills wife in apparent religious breakdown. The photos on every news site were surreal. The smiling wedding portrait, a church bulletin with their names listed under young married leaders. Hunter's mugshot, rain-drenched, eyes hollow, face expressionless. When police arrived that night, he didn't run. He was sitting on the front steps, barefoot in the rain, soaked in blood and scripture. The notebook beside him, testimony, was handed over without resistance. Inside, investigators found pages upon pages of what they called delusional religious mania, verses rewritten. Alyssa's name scrawled beside phrases like the serpent in disguise, bride of Babylon, unclean sacrifice. But between the madness were heartbreakingly lucid reflections. I loved her more than I loved myself, and maybe that was the sin. She gave me God, but not the truth. The knife only did what my soul had already done. The trial drew national attention. Some painted Hunter as a monster, another man who couldn't handle the truth about a woman's past. Others viewed him as a broken soul who snapped under the weight of deception. But the courtroom itself was still. No outbursts, no rage. Hunter pled guilty. He refused to take the stand, refused to defend himself. When asked by the judge if he had anything to say before sentencing, he stood slowly, eyes heavy and distant. "I believed I was building a life with Christ," he said, "but I was just building a temple to my own expectations. And when the idol fell, I crucified the person I blamed." He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Years passed. Hunter became a ghost within the prison walls, quiet, distant, respected by some, feared by others. He led no Bible studies, preached no sermons, wrote no more journals, but every Sunday, without fail, he would sit alone by the narrow window and stare at the sky, rain or shine, and whisper the same 3 words, "I forgive you," over and over, a ritual for a ghost. Alyssa was buried in a white dress, the same one she wore at the wedding. Her parents, heartbroken but silent, chose not to speak at her funeral. Only her younger sister said a few words. She wanted to be someone new. She really believed she could be. Maybe that's what killed her, believing someone like her could ever be loved for real. And somewhere, in a forgotten prison cell, a man sits, eyes turned to heaven, wondering which was the greater lie, her past, or the future he thought they had.